if you are spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on a home, I think it is important to be completely honest about the trade-off. If I had to buy a home in Surrey tomorrow, I already know the areas I would be looking at. But it's a kind of a cheating because I lived here for over 25 years. So for yourself, the answer is really going to depend on what stage of life you are in, what your budget looks like, and where you actually need to commute on a daily basis. But if you're not from the area or you are not familiar with it, there is so much misinformation about Surrey online that it can really lead you down the wrong path. Surrey isn't one simple market. It's a huge city with very different neighborhoods, and the best area for one buyer can be completely wrong for another one. So in this video, I'm going to walk you through where I personally would move in Surrey. What my pick would be for townhouse buyers. What I would look at if I had a family. Where I would focus with a bigger budget. What I would consider with a smaller budget. And a couple of areas that I personally think twice about. So let's get into it. In case you are not familiar, Surrey is absolutely massive. You have got 6 major communities with dozens of distinct neighborhoods within those broader communities and an estimated population of more than 700,000 people. So treating Surrey like one big area on a map is one of the fastest ways to make a wrong decision. So where you should buy in Surrey usually comes down to 3 things: your daily commute, your family situation, and your budget. If you are commuting to Vancouver, your priorities are going to look very different from somebody who is working in Langley or working remotely. If you have got kids or you're planning on having kids, schools and parks move way up the list. And if you're a first-time buyer trying to stretch into a townhouse, your best option might be completely different from someone shopping for an estate property in South Surrey. Once you answer these questions honestly, the right neighborhood gets a lot easier to identify. If I wanted the best bang for my real estate dollar in Surrey, this is where I would start. In my opinion, the best value play in Surrey right now is Clayton Heights. So if you are looking for the best bang for your buck, maybe you are a first-time buyer just trying to get into the market, that's probably one of the areas where I would start my search. And it is not just for first-time buyers or people with a limited budget who should be looking here. It is for young couples, older couples, individuals, families, anyone who is trying to make the real estate dollar go the furthest. The good news is that the math works the same for everyone. One of the key things I like to point here is that there is a gap between Clayton and Willoughby's pricing. Willoughby borders Clayton and is actually in Langley, but we are talking about roughly a 5 to 10% price difference for only about a 5-minute car drive. So if you are stuck between Surrey and Langley, Clayton and Willoughby, that difference can make a big impact. And at today's numbers, that difference is more meaningful than ever. You still get good parks, schools, and pockets that actually feel like a neighborhood. Clayton also sits along the Fraser Highway corridor, so the Surrey Langley SkyTrain is going to make this area more interesting and convenient over time. But if I wouldn't chase transit, this isn't even built yet. If 2 locations both work for you today, being close to that line can be a real plus down the road. However, you do have to be aware of exactly where it is coming in, because there is going to be more noise, there is going to be construction, and you have to think about how traffic is going to change as well. Now, one thing I would flag in Clayton is parking, especially in areas with detached homes, coach homes, and suites. A lot of streets can get very tight at night once everyone's home, and parking can become difficult. Clayton can look like incredible value, but here's the part buyers don't always think about. Some of these homes have a coach home with a garage below, so you might have 2 parking spots and there are another spot on the side. Now imagine a family living upstairs and another family living in the basement and somebody or a couple living in the coach home. It wouldn't be out of question to have 4, 5 or even 6 cars associated with a single household. Now pack a bunch of those homes with coach houses beside each other and you can see why parking becomes an issue in Clayton. But there's another major benefit here. If you're looking at a detached home, the potential for rental income or the mortgage helper is a real benefit. Suites and coach homes are common in the area, and a good setup can generally change the math on what you can afford to carry. But here's the trade-off. Once you own a property with a suite, you are also becoming a landlord. The layout needs to work. Privacy needs to work. Parking needs to work for everyone. and you're going to have to make some sacrifices and trade-offs. But for the right buyer, this could be a great opportunity to get into the detached market. And realistically, you have some control over how you structure the parking. But if you're not providing a parking spot for the tenants, it is going to make finding tenants extremely difficult. So overall, Clayton is a strong fit for the right buyer. If you want an established Surrey neighborhood with a real family feel, I would look into Fleetwood. Now, Fleetwood is a different conversation, and I think it gets overlooked because it isn't a newer area. But there's actually part of what makes it work for families. The settled feel of Fleetwood is generally attractive to families who want roots somewhere. The trade-off is that newer construction can be harder to find. There has been some newer development along Fraser Highway and in other pockets. But overall, there's a bit of a lack of inventory, and the majority of the townhomes are a little bit older now. If newer homes really matter to you, then Grandview Heights is worth considering. Grandview Heights is further south in the South Surrey community. The homes are newer. A lot of detached homes already come with legal suites that are set up. And there's also a reasonable amount of townhouse and condo inventory. Both Fleetwood and Grandview Heights can work for individuals, couples, or families. It really comes down to whether you want something that's more established with some history or something newer that you can make your own. Now let's talk about the family buyer. Someone who wants good schools, parks, a detached home, or a larger townhouse, and a neighborhood that feels safe and established. For that profile, Sullivan Station and Panorama Ridge would be high on my list. They are definitely family-oriented areas in Surrey that don't get talked about as much as they deserve. You have got parks, schools, the YMCA is close by, and solid access to Highway 10 and Highway 99 plus Highway 15. The area has grown a lot, but it still has that suburban feel where you see families actually using those parks and public spaces. It's not quite as premium as Morgan Creek or Elgin, but that's part of the point. You're getting strong family livability without jumping into the highest price brackets in Surrey. However, Panorama Ridge does have some absolutely breathtaking estates that can get much higher on the budget and the price list. So you need to keep an eye out for those. Now for buyers with a bigger budget who want something more upscale, Morgan Creek, Elgin and Fraser Heights still near the top of the Surrey market. Morgan Creek gives you that golf course oriented community, home feel, larger homes, polished streets and a very specific lifestyle. Elgin, also located in South Surrey, is even more prestigious in many ways. You will get larger estate style properties, mature trees, strong schools. Crescent Park is nearby and access to some of the best lifestyle pockets in South Surrey. Fraser Heights is also a strong option for buyers who want that premier established feel. But in North Surrey, you get larger lots, incredible schools, quite a residential character, and a very different vibe from South Surrey that a lot of buyers actually prefer. Now let me tell you about a couple of areas that I would be extremely cautious about, because this is where people sometimes get upset. But I think it is important that I am being completely honest. I personally wouldn't prioritize areas like West Newton or the majority of Newton for that matter, especially if the goal is long-term family livability or stronger future upside. The eastern part of Newton, including Sullivan Station and Panorama Ridge, are areas I would be much more comfortable with. If you're talking about Newton proper, the east side is a bit better. It is more residential and family oriented. West Newton has more reputation issues, crime concentration concerns and weaker transit connections compared with areas receiving more infrastructure investment. Now that doesn't mean nobody should ever buy there. Affordability matters and it's going to be the right fit for somebody. There are always buyers where the numbers work. But if you're asking me where I wouldn't prioritize moving in Surrey, that would be near the top of the list. Now there's another area I would be careful about, the immediate downtown Cloverdale strip. And I want to be very clear here. I actually really like Cloverdale overall. The broader Cloverdale community and even the downtown core has this great small town feel and an historic character. It has strong family appeal and some really nice residential pockets. But the immediate town center core has more traffic, older commercial uses, and more mixed use environment. There are also some additional concerns about crime and overall appeal in that pocket. But if you step a few blocks outside that boundary and you are now in a completely different environment. So I definitely wouldn't write off Cloverdale whatsoever. It is actually one of my favorite neighborhoods in all of Surrey. You just want to be selective about exactly where you want to buy. So after looking at all of Surrey, here's how I would actually narrow it down. So just to pull it all together, if value is the priority, Clayton is the top pick. It offers comparable quality to Willoughby at a real discount. And the Surrey Langley SkyTrain corridor adds potentially long-term upside. For an established neighborhood, Fleetwood delivers. And Grandview Heights is worth a look if newer construction is more important for you. For families with mid-range budgets, Sullivan and Panorama Ridge can definitely be good options. And if you are looking for a higher end lifestyle, Morgan Creek, Elgin and Fraser Heights are the areas. But once again, I just want to reinforce this. You have got to know what your commute looks like, what your family situation is, and what your budget looks like. That's when the right area becomes obvious. So if you're thinking about making a move to Surrey or any of the surrounding areas for that matter, the best way to get started is by booking a call with me. Scroll down and click the first link in the description below. We'll go through the different areas and property types and make sure you're going to end up in an area you're actually going to love. And now that you know where I personally look in Surrey, the next thing you need to understand is which specific property types I will be careful with. Because even in the right neighborhood, the wrong homes can still create problems. Luckily for you, I've already broken it down in another video. So check that one right here and I will see you over there.